What's up, trainers? Coach MccDann here. Welcome to the Smasher'S Mentality series. This will be a series introduction video on what to expect going forward into these lessons I will be providing for the first half of our next season here on the Game Gym app. So grab some water, settle in, and let's dive into what's in store to help build yourself to not only play like a viable competitor, but think like one too. Along with the thrill of competition comes the challenges and trials one must face when forced to reflect inward. Most times, a majority of players will result in sabotaging their progress with improvement when disregarding their losses and resolving their results by blaming their opponents, their characters or playstyle that they found was lame or tilting, and sometimes even blame their overall viability of the character they play. Regardless of the situation, if any of these sound familiar to you and you're looking to change that about yourself, this series will be just right for players who are the most willing to build respect for the game, how it's played, and especially respecting their opponents behind it. To get you prepared for this portion of the season, we're going to have a smaller exercise today, but it's simple and effective. Head on into the online section of your home screen, select the settings icon, and select taunt messages. Change your starting messages to good luck, have fun, and ending messages to good fight. Setting these messages is a tiny way to expand your outlook on the games you play, since you can learn to establish using these messages no matter the outcome of a game. If you're playing with a friend or family member, saying a simple good games or GG's after a session of games will suffice, so be sure to keep this in mind if you're not an online player. When going more into the series, one factor that not enough players talk about will arise, and it's the ideology that not a single game in the Super Smash Bros. Series is consistent. Smash Bros. As a whole is not a consistent game. There's no overall factor to ensure a 100% success rate in competition. There wouldn't be that much competition if there was anyways. So with this in mind, we can expand on building a progressive mentality that turns losses into lessons. Ever notice how nowhere after a match does the game mention you lose or you won, but rather, ready for the next battle? It's a subtle message, but it's how you interpret little things like these that matters. When we see just how much we can learn and improve upon when it comes to game fundamentals, learning and implementing these things becomes much easier when you're in a position to learn over winning. And this, believe it or not, is something most competitive players and even some of the biggest icons in sports as a whole work on their craft. Winning only implies that the person who outputs the most winning conditions remains victorious, and the player who loses the game is the one who made the most mistakes. And although these mistakes might range in severity, there's always the next game to improve upon them. The only limits to what you're capable of learning about as a competitive player, or even things outside of competition, are the limits you set on yourself. This series will go much further in depth on how to strive for your goals in a way that pushes your limits, but also opens avenues to establishing self-compassion for both you and your opponent, leading into the concept of letting go of the outcome of a game, alleviating pressure, and focusing on the present moment are all key strategies that you're able to practice as you go into the future games, and inevitably evolve into a sportsman-like player. With all this being said, this is a good time to start. For our last final exercise, play 5 games online, and be sure to use those taunt messages you set earlier before and after games. Understand that winning any one of these games is absolutely an outcome, but so is losing, and if that becomes the case, recognize what feelings come up. Understand that it's okay to make mistakes, because you're prepared to learn from them, and avoid making them next time, especially with the series I have planned going forward. So stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.